as an independent prosecutorial body, how do we assess its success or failure, and whether there's any merit to calls by MPs for it to be scrapped? So, for example, December 4, Bagbin said, stop throwing money at ineffective OSP. And he was speaking in relation to the office, not necessarily the person. I'll read highlights of that for you briefly. And then Mahama Yariga says, abolish OSP, empower AG to fight corruption. Two very, very serious stories that have come in this week on the OSP. Now, let me start with the Mike Okwe story. Graphic, page 13 today. Story by Emmanuel Ebo-Hoxton and Justice Agbenos. He says, the Office of the Special Prosecutor has come under intense public scrutiny, with some notable personalities calling for it to be scrapped, while others insist it should be maintained to continue spearheading the fight against corruption. Leading the crusade for the OSP to be scrapped is a former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Mike Aaron Okwe. According to him, quote, a special prosecutor may not be necessary at all in the Republic, unquote. In an interview with the Daily Graphic, he explained that the proliferation of institutions was not ideal, calling for the strengthening of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions under the Office of the Attorney General to effectively deal with corruption cases. The story gives the background to the challenges within OSP and Mr. Kpebu. He says the calls for the OSP to be scrapped became more profound after private legal practitioner Martin Kpebu was arrested and detained last Wednesday, December 3, by the OSP. Mr. Kpebu was on premise of the OSP to assist in an inquiry relating to an allegation made by him that the Special Prosecutor, Kisi Ejabin, acted untoward in the investigations against former Finance Minister. He was supposedly arrested after an altercation with a security staff member on the premises. Throwing more light on his stance, Professor Michael Okwe said the OSP should be abolished through a private member's bill, with the focus shifted to enhance the office of the DPP. Quote, there was a DPP called Jekedako, and we all know how strong he was and his prosecutorial experience and strength. Professor Okwe, under whose tenure as Speaker of Parliament, the OSP was passed. OSP law was passed. He bemoaned the proliferation of institutions to deal with the same things, leading to overlapping and limited results. If an institution is weak, strengthen it. You don't go and create another one, he said, stating the role of investigative bodies such as the National Intelligence Bureau having overlapping roles with other investigative bodies. Now, there's an aspect of the story that my guest in studio disagrees with. So I'll be speaking to Ace Ankomah, who, during a lecture he gave a few days, or was it weeks back? A month back, at the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, suggested a new institutional arrangement to manage natural resource wealth. In that presentation, he made suggestions about independent bodies and what to do with bodies like the OSP. I suspect the graphic misconstrued those lecture notes to mean that you support Prof. Okwe's views, which I know is not correct. So I've invited Ace Ankomah to explain how he thinks we should go around this architecture of managing corruption or dealing with corruption. I also speak to Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, who we know is the head of the Constitution Review Committee set up by President Mahama, but who was also instrumental in setting up the OSP law. Ace, let me start with you. Thanks for joining us. I know you correct what the graphic did. How surprised are you that all of a sudden, I won't say all of a sudden, because Okwe, even in the passage of the law when he was Speaker, said he had washed his hands off because he wasn't really in agreement. But the majority leader, the current Speaker, the former Speaker, all saying the office should be scrapped. Is this surprising to you?
Yes and no. How long has the OSP been in place?
2017. 2017.
So 8 years.
Or 2018. Yeah.
It's a short period.
Yeah.
I don't think it's evolved yet. When we set up offices, we must expect them to grow and to evolve, and even to make mistakes. We cannot expect 100%, the 80% conviction rate. The lawyers know that the genre of crimes that the OSP is supposed to prosecute, often white-collar crime, is some of the most sophisticated crime. This is not stealing, a dishonest appropriation of a thing that doesn't belong to you. This is not murder. You know, killing a person by use of unlawful harm, intentionally killing a person by use of unlawful harm. White-collar crimes are very sophisticated. That is why in some countries there must even be a predicate offense before there's a secondary offense, etc., etc. That's the first one. So a certain level of skill is required to investigate white-collar crime, which has been missing from our body politic, has even been missing from our Attorney General's department. And that is what, as a nation, we admitted when we set the OSP up. 2, people who engage in white-collar crime are sufficiently well-heeled to hire the best legal talent to raise every possible technical legal objection. And so we also need a bunch of prosecutors who are sufficiently savvy and knowledgeable in these areas of the law to be able to prosecute these offenses. That takes time. Look, how long did it take us to set up the OSP? My learned senior, Mr. Martin Amidu, was screaming his voice hoarse about the lack of facilities. Even Kisia Jabin, when he started, was screaming his voice hoarse as well. It's in recent years that he's been given the money to set the office up. Before the office could crawl, we say, kill the baby. Why are we in a hurry? Look, I'll tell you what. Parliament has a great aversion to all the independent institutions, that even those that are set up by the Constitution.
Parliament has a great aversion to independent constitutional bodies.
I'll tell you what. For years after the Constitution came into effect, the Auditor General had never bothered to assert the independence of disallowance and surcharge. It took us to go to court to get a court order to compel the Auditor General to start disallowing and surcharging. At least according to the World Bank, by the time we killed the Auditor General office again, by declaring the occupying Togolese and declaring him retired all of a sudden, the Auditor General had recovered 65 million cedis for the Republic of Ghana. This is according to the World Bank. Okay. Then we decided that he was doing too much work. But the interesting thing was that in Parliament, there was a debate, I think the vetting of a Minister of National Security, where between the minority and majority, they decided that the decision we went to a Supreme Court for, Occupy Ghana versus the Attorney General, was too bad. They should find a way to go around it. I remember we issued a statement challenging that, and they immediately backed down. So whenever the institution starts showing any independence, our Parliament tends to get antsy. Right? And I think that the people of Ghana must tell Parliament, guys, take it easy. Let's allow the office to grow. Let's allow the office even to make, look, yes, there's a lot of learning to be learned. I don't agree with everything they've done. There are lots of things they've done that I agree with as well. I think that, look, we are talking about the whole weaponization of bail. This didn't start today. We've been making this noise about the abuse of bail. By the police. Why? They arrest you on Friday. When they arrest you on Friday, they keep you in. You are there for about 6 hours. Nobody will speak with you. By the time they speak with you, they say the inspector to sign your bail has gone home. You are in for the weekend. And we all suspect that all of these things are purchased. They are acquired. They are transactional. Right? And so bail has been abused for a very long time. So let's lance that boil. Let's deal with the issue about these onerous bail circumstances. And they know that you can go to court and set it aside. But by the time you get a lawyer and go to court, you've been in jail for a week. So they succeed in doing that. Let's deal with that. Parliament should rather pass a law to regulate the grant by bail outside court so that it is not abused. Instead of Parliament doing that, they want to kill the OSP. Look, the people of Ghana must tell them that, sorry, we don't think that we should do this.
I know you have some suggestions on how to reshape it for it to work better. Let me come to Professor Kwesi Prempeh to see if I can speak to him briefly. Prof, thanks for joining us on the show. Good evening.
Good evening, Bernard. It's been a while.
Yes, you're a busy man working for Ghana, so I call you sparingly. I hope you are fine.
I am doing well, thank you.
Wonderful. I've drawn you into this because you are one of the people I know thought through this idea of an OSP when the former president tried to set it up. And I suspect you actually wrote the first draft. If I'm wrong, correct me. About whether the office even needs to exist. And some are rehashing old issues around strengthening the DPP. Indeed, Professor Michael Kwe has led the chorus. We've heard Speaker Bagwin also say he doesn't see why they're giving so much money to OSP when they are doing nothing. And then Mahama Yariga, the majority leader, is also asking for the office to be scrapped. And first and foremost, let's deal with the reason for its existence. What were you trying to do in setting up in the way you did in terms of Article 88, what the AG is supposed to do, understanding the need to separate the Minister of Justice from the Attorney General, and why there must be a special body to deal with corruption by politically exposed persons? Just walk us briefly through OSP 101.
So thank you very much, Bernard. I think the idea, the genesis of this whole thing is basically a structural one. We have an attorney general who has essentially constitutional monopoly of prosecution. But that attorney general, under our current dispensation, it's not always been so, but currently in the Fourth Republic, and I think before that, that attorney general is a politician, is a political appointee of the president, a member of the president's cabinet, and sometimes actually had been an elected member of parliament. So this is somebody who actually contests on a party ticket, can get elected to parliament, and then he becomes attorney general, he or she, and then is possessed of this power solely to prosecute any crimes. Now, if we want to fight corruption, and usually this, I'm not saying that this is something that only politicians do, but the idea is that, look, we have had a problem perennially fighting political corruption. Political corruption being corruption involving, politically exposed persons. And how are you going to be able to do it credibly when the person in the seat who